It's state of the franchise, and Jason, like we talk about all the time, it always seems like some news drops right before it's time to go live with state of the franchise. And sure enough, that's exactly what has happened. We got some breaking injury news that we definitely have to talk about that absolutely could impact this game against the Rams coming up. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, kind of previewing the Rams game. I think we're already far enough beyond this Minnesota game that we really don't need to touch on it all that much at all. Um, so let's talk about the impact. And I think the question that really kind of has been percolating all week is, can Brock win without CMC and Deebo? Now we might have to add George Kittle to that list. So we'll get into all that. You already know the vibes. Drop your spicy sourdoughs in the chat. Let's get into it right now. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. All right, man. What a way to get started. But of course, got to shout out TickPick for sponsoring this episode of State of the Franchise. Make sure you use code SF9ers. Get $25 off your ticket purchases in app. You can find all the information in the description below. But Jason, typically we start with a vibe check of our show. So what are the vibes like with the news kind of coming out? I guess let's set the tone first.
Mhm.
If you haven't heard or you're just hearing, George Kittle not practicing today with a hamstring, Travarius Ward not practicing today with a hamstring knee, which is interesting because everyone was a full participant yesterday. Now we have this issue going on, and you already have Adam Schefter talking like George Kittle isn't going to play in this game against the Rams. So what are your vibes surrounding that whole situation that just happened right before we came on?
We got no Kittle. We got no Deebo. We got no McCaffrey. Our pets' heads are falling off. Everybody burn it down. No, look. I think less concern about how the 49ers can win this game because there's still a path to it, and more concern about hamstring injuries and do they linger, and what this means going forward.
Tissue.
Right. And what this means going forward. Literally went from Kyle Shanahan saying no injuries reported to these three guys. And yesterday, Matt Barrows pointed out, yesterday was a light practice and both were full participants. Today was a more strenuous practice, and that's what we got. So it's strange how the information comes out. It's strange with the schedule and how the practices, can lead to it. But Matt Barrows alluded to it and said he believes it happened on Sunday against the Vikings. So from Kyle Shanahan saying no injuries to all the injuries, just a little odd. I think the concern is less about beating the Rams this game because I still believe that they can, to how long is this going to linger for?
Well, let's face it. The Rams are hurt too. They're without Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. They have some offensive line injuries. They have defensive secondary injuries. It's not like, that both teams are limping into this game, just like a lot of teams across the NFL. It's been one of the big takeaways. Of course, we'll do our little fantasy segment at the end of the show, but there's a lot of injuries, which means people got to step up. And so just back to the situation with the injury with George and with Mooney is, so obviously we pay attention to how information comes out, right? And so you mentioned how it was reported good news yesterday, but it was a lighter practice. Now it's somehow a more rigorous practice, and now these guys aren't playing. What to me stands out about how this news came out is the fact that Nick Wagner put it out first, and then maybe 10 seconds later, you had Adam Schefter right on the back of it. Both of them work for ESPN. So my assumption is Adam, Nick, they had this information. It was a coordinated attack of Nick, you're going to put it out first. You're the beat reporter. And then bang, I'll post my tweet right after that. And you saw Adam Schefter had like 4 tweets loaded up, ready to go, and just pop, 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 pop.
Like he's having fun with it.
He popped like 4 different tweets about the guys who aren't playing. These are the injuries, week 3. So to me, I think this is a serious injury with Kittle, a serious hamstring injury in the sense of they're already anticipating he will be out for this game against the Rams. Let's read exactly the tweet from Adam Schefter that we're kind of talking about. He says right here that the 49ers and Rams play on Sunday in Los Angeles, and the game is likely to be without Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Steve Avila, Jonah Jackson, amongst others. Now, in that list, we already know that all those guys aren't going to be playing. The newest name is George Kittle added to the list. So the way that I'm interpreting this information, the way it's coming out, the coordinated effort of it is they understand that this is it's not a nick of where it's going to be a game time decision or they're being, let's just keep him out of this. To me feels like they already know he's not going to play against the Rams.
And any team that has any player on Thursday not practice, Friday's the day. Thursday
Right.
and Friday, right? Like that's, you can have a limited practice on Wednesday, be fine Thursday and Friday, but anyone who follows injury reports and they find out, because we're all fantasy players and everything, Thursday and Friday are those are your money days. If
Sure.
someone is practicing, there's a better chance Friday you really find out because that's when you really have to put out the injury report. But I don't know if it's a coordinated thing and more just kind of the pattern of how guys go. If you're out on Thursday, you're up against it to get into the game on Sunday. So we still have to wait for a little bit more information, but I agree. I wouldn't bet on him being in this game. And if that means that he'll be fine for the next week, then obviously. But I think the concern is just the nature of the injury. Hamstring tightness, and that scares me more than anything. And the same thing with Mooney is what's the severity? What's the timetable? Because Christian McCaffrey was supposed to just be fine. Calf, now whatever, IR. Deebo, all of a sudden, calf, now out for several weeks is what they're saying. Several weeks, not just like a 1 or 2 week thing. And then, now Kittle with a hamstring. These soft tissue injuries, they're the scariest part. And it's all happening at the right moment. So I understand why people are freaking out and yelling about 2020 because kind of felt like the same type of season in 2020 when it happened all after the week 2 game with Garoppolo
week
and both
2 into week 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Playing
on
turf,
it's right
back-to-back turf situation.
Right. In MetLife, right. So yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to put that out there. I'm not saying that that's what's going on, but I'm just saying
we're just making a natural correlation.
Right, and it's just the nature of the injury. Nobody wants to hear hamstring. That's the scary part.
Yeah, because as you alluded to, it's soft tissue, and those things can linger for weeks. Didn't Justin Jefferson miss like almost the entire season last year with a hamstring injury? Wasn't that what he was dealing with last year?
I think it was that, and then when he came back, he had the punctured lung, and that kind of like almost just about ended his season. So,
okay, it's a little bit more than that, but again, the point still remains: soft tissue injuries are always challenging. It's always the soft tissue and non-contact injuries that feel like they're always the worst. But so, yeah, I understand. The PTSD like surrounding this whole situation because we understand what it is. It's you had a devastating Super Bowl loss. You channel that into one of the most tumultuous off seasons in recent memory. And now you run into a situation where you lose to Sam Darnold. And I think that's more of just an optics thing, right? It's more of a perception thing that fans are having a hard time with that loss. I think, after we've gotten into the tape and you look at it, you're like, okay, well, I can see why they lost. They didn't play their their best game. There was errors on all three phases, right? And so when you don't play your best ball on all three phases and the other team is playing pretty well, you're going to run into a buzzsaw eventually. So we can contextualize why that game didn't go their way. But I think obviously the perception from the fan base is it's more about you lost to Sam Darnold. You lost to the Vikings. You shouldn't lose to the Vikings. They're an inferior team. And so then you compound all of those things. And now you have a situation where the 49ers are looking at, the continuous conversation around Brock Purdy. Now, he doesn't have Deebo. He doesn't have McCaffrey. Now you're probably going to add George Kittle to that list. You have Deebo. You have Brandon Ayuk, who's been in the middle of his own firestorm from the fan base. And so now you got a team heading down to LA, obviously hurt. So are the Rams. But what do you think? Does this put any added pressure on Brock? Or how do you think or are interpreting what Brock needs to do or how Brock should react to this or what, just from the quarterback's perspective? Because as we know, it's a quarterback-driven league and all eyes are on number 13 for the 49ers. So how are you interpreting that?
Well, yesterday, Kyle Shanahan was asked about that question about, Brock lifting and just saying we don't want him to do too much. Everything has to be within the play, within the construct. I think that's still true. But this is a moment that everyone who is waiting to jump on Brock Purdy has been waiting for. This is because last year, the 49ers had incredible injury luck. And for the most part, they didn't miss many of their guys, right? Now, this is the moment that anyone who is a Brock Purdy detractor, doubter, straight up hater, this is the moment they're waiting for. Let's get it done without the Avengers. Okay. I still have faith in Brandon Ayuk and Jordan Mason and the way that they were able to run the football. I think this has to be a Mason 25, 27, 28 touch game. Sorry, buddy, but this is what it's got to be. Juwan Jennings is going to step up and play a little bit more and play in that condensed split, with Brandon Ayuk as the X. I think you need to play mistake-free football in this one, and you have to lighten the load for Brock. Because I'm not one of the people that says, well, if you're going to get paid this and this, don't pocket watch. How do you win a game? How do you do it? You play mistake-free football, be good on both sides of the ball, don't allow 97-yard touchdowns, protect a little bit, you'll win the game. Right. I don't care what happens. Like Brock doesn't need to throw for 400 yards in this game. And if Brock goes out there and he throws for 225, a touchdown, 0 interceptions, I don't want to hear anything if the 49ers win either. So this is a turning point with the Brock Purdy narrative because a lot of people have been waiting. And if you believe that Brock needs to throw for 300, 400 yards to win this game, and if he doesn't, then you are going to jump on him, then you never believed. So this is going to be a very interesting game for the discourse around Brock Purdy because I feel like a lot of people have been waiting for this moment to jump on him.
Have you noticed the trend with people who have defended Brock and the people who have kind of defended him in the media also saying a similar thing? You had, I think it was Chase Daniel, former, perennial backup quarterback now in the media. He was saying similar things of like, he's been a guy who has been defending Brock with film and breakdowns and all these things, talking about the quarterback. But he's like, oh, well, but now it's time to take that next step. Steve Young, a guy that, we all love, for various different reasons. But as his time in the media, he has been a guy who has been championing for Brock and singing his praises. But also over the last year or so, you're I think part of it too, Jason, and you've been super close to this, just like I have. The first year or so was just like, is this a real thing? Is Brock really a good quarterback? Because people legitimately thought like, oh, it's a Jimmy G reincarnated, right? And so we had to smash that narrative. And so I think we've all gotten through that, and we saw it really early on tape. that Brock Purdy is a really good quarterback. But now it's like there's this other tier that he has the opportunity to climb into. And you have Steve, you have Chase. Even I said something about it after watching the film breakdown as well, or doing the film breakdown. It's like there is an opportunity for him to take that next step, because when you look at the games, like I think of the Detroit Lions game, the NFC Championship, and the divisional round versus the Packers, Brock was a driving factor of why they won those games. And it happened at the end of the game. When I was watching this game against Minnesota and they were coming from behind, I felt that same energy. He was being that driving factor. I think the question becomes, Brock, can you do that for 60? Now you don't have Deebo. Now you don't have McCaffrey. Now you don't have these weapons. Can you be that driving force, not when you're just behind, but from the start and from the front? What do you think about that?
So I think it's a combination of things. And I think we would be remiss without giving Minnesota and Brian Flores their flowers for what they were able to do on Sunday. And Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings, their coverage variable numbers, they're number 3 in the NFL. And they run too high at a very high level as well, too. I know too high has been a long discussion as well, too. Right. But what Brian Flores and the Vikings were able to do, and as I was telling you all week, it was like it doesn't matter the names, because the Jets have better names, but they're not going to present the challenge that the Vikings are. The showing of 7, dropping 4, coming from different places, the line giving up 17 pressures. And it felt like Brock was just at times. It's crazy because this game, when you watch it back, Brock has some of these sparkling throws. Sparkling. How did he get that there? That was amazing. And then there was times where he has to hold the ball a tick, where Ayuk's about to clear a window, has to hold it a tick too long and gets away from the read, or either holds it too long and tries to bang it on Juice. It's hard to not give the Vikings credit, but it's easier to just say, oh, well, look, Brock can't do it. The Vikings did a good job. And that doesn't mean that is going to be something that's continued. Again, the way we talk about it, and I talked about this last year after the Baltimore game, because it kind of feels the same, although Baltimore's defense has studs at every single position. Yeah, everyone else can try to run that. Everyone else could try to run that game plan. That's fine. You can try. If you don't have the coordinator, if you don't have the players, you're not going to be able to do it. And the Rams, on the other hand, they switch up their coverage predictability. I think there's only 4 teams less than them. They're almost in the same thing. And they never run too high. So for me, again, everything has to be contextualized with what the other team does. Everything has to be contextualized with how the person played. I think we both agree that Brock wasn't at times at his best, but you have to give credit to the Vikings. And again, everyone's waiting to jump on Brock anytime that someone's missing and they don't do something. If Brock goes out there and wins this game and throws for 225 yards and a touchdown, but he makes all the big throws when you need it, don't be running in here telling me about stats. Let's watch the game. Let's see how it goes, and let's see what the other team is doing. The Vikings were prepared. They did a good job. They made Brock uncomfortable. That's their job. But this idea that he has to throw for 300, they have to throw for 400, that's completely wrong. If Brock throws for 300 yards in this game, the 49ers have either blown them out or lost, because I don't like that idea. I don't want Brock dropping back a bunch of times. I don't want any of that. I want a more balanced. I want a lot of running. I want 25, 26, 28 rushes.
More efficient numbers.
Right.
Numbers.
Volume stats are not going to be what's going to be the determining factor with Brock Purdy. And I've said it over and over in the offseason. The incremental steps that you'll see from Brock won't be statistical, because it is so hard to duplicate what he did last year, numbers-wise. What you're going to see incrementally as far as improvement is recognizing the blitz, understanding what you're seeing, being able to handle what the protection is looking like, getting the ball out on time. If a free rush is at you, you throw it through him. That's where you'll find your improvements with Brock. It will not be statistically. So he can throw up a 225-yard game with a touchdown. And I could say, wow, I saw improvement there. Stats are not going to tell me where he's at right now.
So I think a lot of what you're saying too is, to simplify it a little bit, is there's needs to be some nuance. There's nuance involved
That's
in.
impossible, though.
I've been talking about this all week. It's just like, man, we've gotten to a point where there's no room for nuance in sports conversation sometimes, when this is a very nuanced sport. And when I'm using that word nuance, meaning it's not black and white. There, right? You talked about it eloquently. Not only is Brock having to execute his play, but he's having to navigate the pressure of the defense. How his O-line's holding up, his wide receivers getting open. He's having to navigate blitzes, pre-snap, post-snap. He's having to navigate, are his guys executing? Is he executing? Is he seeing it? Is he not seeing it? There's a million different factors that go into whether a play is successful or not. And everyone drills down to, oh, Ayuk's not open. Ayuk's not getting open. He gets paid $30 million. He needs to get open. Or, oh, see, Brock doesn't have the Avengers. He loses to Sam Darnold, right? It's just, everything is so reactionary, and I get it. Reaction is really driving the sports landscape right now, and the landscape for pretty much all media, honestly. Mm-hmm. But it's like there can be a nuanced conversation here. We can have we can talk about multiple different things that need to occur. Like, was Brock absolutely awful in that game? No, there were moments where he absolutely struggled, and it was one of the games that I would say was on the lower tier of his overall scope of his career. But there's also moments in that game where you're like, okay, that's the Brock that I know. That's the Brock that I expect. And okay, it's early on. It's the beginning portion of the season. Some guys are missing. You just went up against, like you talked about, a really good defensive coordinator. And so for me, the measuring stick for this game isn't stats either. I could care less about how many yards he has, how many touchdowns he scores. The only thing that I want to see him do is take care of the football. Make sure he's not putting it in harm's way, making good reads on time. I think we saw a little bit in that game against Minnesota, a little bit late in some of his throws or reads. And that's fine. That's going to happen. It happens with every single quarterback. So again, but this conversation around Brock is so pressurized with he's either the best or he's the worst. And it's like, guys, he's a 24-year-old quarterback in his second full season as a starter, his first full offseason. There's going to be bumps and bruises along the way. And everyone's like, it always comes back to, well, is he a $60 million quarterback? I don't know. We're going to find out this year. We're going to find out how well he plays. And again, like you said earlier, which I really liked, is we aren't pocket watching. The market is the market. The market dictates the price of these players. So at the end of the day, you can have that conversation until you're blue in the face, but the market is the market, and we'll figure that out at the end of the year. So for me in this game, I'm just looking for Brock to execute and have that fire. I saw that fire when he was coming back against Minnesota. He had this one throw to Brandon Ayuk. He threaded it right by the linebacker. It was kind of that one catch that Ayuk had probably like 5 yards out of the end zone towards the end of the game, and he just delivered a laser. And it felt different. Like, it felt like he was juiced up. And I was like, okay, that's what I love. I love that, Brock. Now let's see that for 60 minutes. Let's see that against the Rams for 60 minutes. I don't care about the stats. I just want to see those things. And that's just kind of where I'm at with the whole Brock thing.
And I think just based on what I saw on tape and what the Rams have been able to run in terms of coverage, right, with not too many single high looks. And obviously, I think this is the highest amount of two high looks that we've seen in the NFL. It's 49% being run. And it's clear that people are saying, we're not giving up explosives. Find another way to beat us. Run the football. This has got to be a game where Kyle Shanahan was asked about play action. He just said, oh, different looks, and we can do it. I think this is a big play action game because it's all going to start based off the run. And the Rams are at the bottom of the league in run defense. That doesn't change now, right? Like, because, I mean, it could change because Kittle's such an integral part of it. But run the football, play action against single high. No, run the football, play action against the single high looks that you're going to get and you're going to get some advantageous moments. Obviously, everybody wants to see Brandon Ayuk step up because of whatever happened this offseason. That's fair. I think, again, when you get a chance to sit down and relax and not react right away, because we do instant reaction, and I even asked, like, where was Brandon Ayuk? Well, a little bit of egg on my face when I start to look back at the tape. I'm just like, yeah, he's open, but he wasn't. It's just a few more seconds that, like, or maybe another second that Brock needed. He couldn't even throw in anticipation because the window was closed off with somebody else. But if he gets a chance to clear,
the primary, right?
right. And if there was a chance for him to clear, it was broken up because of the pressure that was in Brock's face, and he gets moved off his spot. So I think, again, there's ways to combat this. This has to be a strong running game, but again, stats aren't going to tell us where Brock Purdy is. And I think, again, we're going to find out in this game, what Kyle can do to offset these losses. I don't want to say there's a good time because there's never a good time, but if there was ever a team that you could beat this hurt, it would be the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not going to, jump out of the window and say, oh my God, smash spot. I mean, I probably wasn't going to do that with Kittle there anyway, but a lot of running the football back to play action a little bit more. I think that's what Kyle was talking about when he said different teams show different things. That's when we can run play action. I think this is one of your times because of the single high safety looks.
I think you make a good point about the whole potential of Kittle not being out. How do you think they overcome that? Because I think Salbert has played pretty well. He's especially in the blocking game. We haven't really used him that much as a receiver. There was one play in that game where he actually broke free on a really well-designed play. It actually turned into a sack. It was that dummy screen to Deebo to the right. It looks like Brock was trying to manipulate the safety with his eyes and bring him down to on Ayuk so he could bang the backside slant to Kittle. And when that wasn't open, he just kind of was like, oh, like he kind of just ran around and got sacked. But you had Salbert breaking free down the seam. So I'm not worried about Salbert from a blocking or receiving standpoint. I think he can get open, and I do think he has good hands. That's the tight end 2 thing, right? Because we've seen Salbert on the field a lot. And so is it Jake Tonges? Is it Braden Willis that you're bringing up from the practice squad? Or do you think maybe do we finally use Kyle Juszczyk as,
I think that's where
glorified tight end?
I think that's where you really go with it. I think at this point, everyone's thinking about, like, okay, who's going to fill this role for Deebo Samuel? Well, it's got to be Jacob Cowing. I still think it's going to be Juwan Jennings. And it's going to be Ayuk at the X. And again, like I tell you, and there's film examples you guys can check on my channel. The deep dig concept where Juwan Jennings is in a condensed split. He's not exactly in a slot because he's actually technically the Z, and he's able to get to the middle of the field and get to his spot because he doesn't have the speed from outside the numbers to get there. There's a big Juwan Jennings game here, and I think we're probably not going to see too much from the tight ends because they're going to need Salbert to be the extra lineman that Kittle is. And I do think that you're probably going to see some more plays diagram for Kyle Juszczyk, whether it be stock rail like you saw in week 1 on the deep pass, less check down and more design plays to Kyle Juszczyk in ways to get him open, especially when you consider what do you think the Rams are going to do? They're probably just going to bring everybody up a few yards, like move them up. Like, let's get as close as we can to the line of scrimmage now that we only have one guy who we feel like can separate, which is, Ayuk, right? Okay, well, let's have you bite on that play action and let's get somebody behind you. This is the chess match that we're talking about. And Kyle Shanahan is very familiar with what the Rams are going to throw. He made, there wasn't too many statements that he made at that press conference that were like, oh, that jump out at you. But when he talked about what the Rams do over there, he said it's pretty much what they ran with Raheem Morris. Now, Raheem Morris is the head coach in Atlanta, but they've kept everything else. Nothing that the Rams are going to be able to throw at him as much as is a surprise, in my opinion, because of obviously the talent level, because Flores still has a different way of doing things. You don't see Flores all the time. When you're familiar with a team in that way, I think right there is where you're going to be able to at least gain some explosives, especially if they're going to be playing closer to the line of scrimmage as opposed to just straight drop back.
Yep. So you're thinking JJ is about to have a big game. He's actually been.
I think, yeah.
He's been arguably him and Deebo have arguably been the most consistent receivers so far.
Yeah.
So that obviously is going to open up a lot more opportunities. They're a little bit banged up in the secondary, and you would think that he would find some opportunities. And, Brock has a good rapport with him.
Mhm.
I do think this is a Brandon Ayuk game. I think this is the game where he finally has
And if
the
it's not, people,
touchdown.
but if it's
People
not,
are gonna lose.
no, look, and look, Brandon Ayuk. I know Brandon Ayuk's not watching the show and he's not worried about what we think, man. Although, by the way, I got some pointers on you, to being a better podcaster. Hit my DM, we could talk about it. But if it's not this game, oh baby, this fan base is gonna cook, man. Woo! So yeah, and no pressure, buddy, no pressure.
No pressure. And I'm sure, Jason, that they're probably going to be rolling coverage his way. They might even
Of
try to
course,
bracket him and try to
of
take him
course.
away. If you're a good
Mhm.
defensive coordinator, you're looking at an offense with Jordan Mason, Juwan Jennings, and Brandon Ayuk. Which weapon are you going to take away first?
Mhm.
Well, that's actually in the passing game. In the passing game,
Mhm.
they're probably taking away Brandon Ayuk.
Mhm.
Jordan Mason obviously has an opportunity to probably really put this team on his back and just continue
Mhm.
to
Oh yeah,
have a phenomenal effort. And, if they can keep this game controlled on the ground, like we know 49ers football, they
Mhm.
will definitely have an opportunity
that's
to win this game.
that's what this has to be. This has to be a 25, 26, 27, 28 carry game for Mason. Now, I don't want to run him into the ground either because there's nothing else. But I think,
Yeah, what do we do? What do we do?
right.
There's it's Isaac
Look, I
Orendo, who the 49ers don't trust, which I get it. He's a rookie. It's to be
mhm,
expected. So no
mhm,
knock on him. But
mhm.
Patrick Taylor, we haven't seen. He's a primary special teamer. Who else they have?
I don't know. That's it. So I don't want to run you into the ground, Jordan Mason, but the way that you win this game is you limit turnover worthy plays, you limit plays where you start to press a little. Running the football alleviates a lot of the stress from play callers and the players themselves, and obviously the quarterback. And I did find it interesting that that's what Jay Gruden was talking about in on John Middlecall's podcast. I don't know if you saw that.
I
But
didn't.
Jay Gruden was just talking about how he doesn't like Kyle Shanahan's drop back passing concepts when the team is behind. And he said it's very easy to call plays when you're up 14-21, right? Like that's why I'm not saying I agree with him, but I don't want to see Brock Purdy dropping back 35, 40 times in this game because that's not going to be the way that you win this game. It has to be from running the football and then everything off of that in this one. This has to be one of those games. And I'm not saying it has to be one of those games with, 8 pass attempts, like unless you're running the football to that degree, but you definitely don't want to have Brock out there throwing the ball a ton of times. Like I don't think even when the guys are all healthy, I don't think that's the way you're going to win. I definitely don't think that that's the thing that you want to do in this game. So yeah, Jordan Mason, eat a bunch of bananas, potassium, no cramps, 28
Those
28
IVs.
28 carries, baby. Get ready. Choo choo.
Oh, thankfully for Jordan Mason, he's been very seldomly used over the first couple years, so he's fresh. He's ready to go. He was waiting for this moment. That's really what it was.
Mhm.
It's actually a 40 chess move by Kyle, not using him and saving him for the moment when it is time to pound the rock 30 times with JP.
Well, and the other thing is I would have loved him to get at least 5 more rushes, especially on 4th and 1, right? Like against Minnesota. Now that would have been 27 and 25, but I'm just saying, like, I think the path to victory here is to run the football. Brock dropping back, and we're talking about getting separation. So you have to understand the Rams are most likely going to turn their attention right to Ayuk, right? You can. Juwan
Yeah.
Jennings is great, but you don't want him out there running routes trying to get, separation one-on-one. Everything has to kind of be on the back end of a scheme, right? Like of how they put him into condensed splits, those types of things. You don't want to get into a straight drop back game in this game because then that's when people start pressing, bad things can happen. It has to be a run the football game in this one.
Well, and we know, like you've already alluded to, the 49ers are at their best historically when they're running and it's play action off of that. And then they get into that rhythm of the defense not knowing pass run. You throw in a couple screens into the mix, and then they're kind of all over the board with from a scheme standpoint defensively because they're playing behind the 49ers offense, not vice versa. And just like you kind of talked about, where we have seen the 49ers it kind of looks a little bit more difficult than it needs to be sometimes when they are playing from behind. But I'm not going to say that's easy for anyone by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, I would have to agree that we want to see a heavy dose of running the football with play action off of it and getting into the rhythm that we're used to of getting in and out of these different looks, which keeps the defense on their toes and vice. And so what I'm really curious about is to see what the Rams defensive coordinator picked up from Flores, what he was able to identify on tape. They got home on a couple stunts up front. There were disguising coverages. They were dropping edges out, bringing double A gap blitzes with the linebackers. So they were doing a bunch of different things. And so I'm curious.
That was a
curious
masterclass.
It was pretty good performance.
That was a masterclass. I mean, it really was. I mean, that was again, the sum of the parts of the Jets are better. Flores was just better. And that's what I was saying. Like,
going Brock into the week, a little confused.
Right. Like I was telling you, like all week, I was just like, yeah, you don't have CJ Mosley and Sauce Gardner and, those guys on the defensive line. But Flores knows how to change things up. And he's so good at that, man. Showing 7, dropping 4, like that's really like diabolical type stuff. And you've got to make that read pre-snap, what you see post-snap. I mean, for God's sakes, they're showing single high in the pre-snap, and then they're rotating back to 2 high. So by the time Brock, while he's waiting for the ball to get to him, he looks up. He's got a totally different look. I don't think you guys understand how difficult that is, right? Like it's literally, and if he ever put his back to the defense and turned, that's what Kyle was saving Purdy from, was back to the ball, turning back and looking, and something looks completely different. And you thought you were going with the ball somewhere. Like, just give credit to Flores. Now, I don't think the Rams are capable of doing that. Let's just put that out there, right? Again, just because one team has done it, sure, other teams will try to duplicate it for a play or two. But if you don't have the coordinator or the dogs to do it, you can't. And you can't just get out of what you're doing. I've said this a million times. You can't just get out of what you're good at and what your personnel dictates.
They're not going to scrap their whole defensive philosophy.
See what the Rams are. Right. The Rams aren't going to be like, hey, we haven't played too high this entire season. This is when we're going to just switch over to everything else. You don't have the personnel to dictate that. So, look, it's going to be a chess match. I think what we're going to find out is the way that this team looks. And I saw somebody say, have you guys forgot about Jacob Cowing? I haven't. But I don't think they're going to use him. I think he's behind. No, I think it's Ayuk, Jennings, and Conley. I didn't get like don't make it seem like I forgot about Jacob Cowing. I'd love for him to be involved in this game. You better talk to Kyle Shanahan about that. Don't talk to me about it. And it's not that he's in the doghouse or anything like that. It's just trust factor.
Yeah, so rookies have a harder time seeing the field.
Right. So it's not me. I didn't forget anything. It's Kyle. And I'm betting on what Kyle is going to do. And he's going to go with the guys that he trusts that are veterans. And it's going to be those 3 guys that you're going to see on the field. Maybe Cowan gets sprinkled in. A little bit. I'd love to see him, at least if you have a designed shot play and you want to get it to him and you feel confident you're getting a look. I love that. But the idea that now Cowan is going to get, 40 snaps, I doubt it. I just doubt it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree that there might be some specialized plays for him. But I just that's the whole thing with like the rookie wide receivers, even Deebo Samuel, and what we've come to know from him is he really struggled as a rookie. We talk about the success that Brandon Ayuk had as a rookie. Kyle blames it on not having any other wide receivers. He's like, oh, the only reason why BA played is because we didn't have anyone else. Everyone was hurt and it was a COVID year. It was a weird situation. So, we'll see. Again, following the trends, it's not that we don't have a belief in Cowing. It's more we're following the trends of Kyle Shanahan, how he implements his groupings and things like that. And trust is definitely a big thing. And he doesn't typically trust rookies, right? We have a long history of Kyle Shanahan not having full trust in rookies. Now, not every rookie is built the same, so you have to treat it as an individual situation. But again, the overarching themes are just that. And I was going to ask you who you thought the third guy was going to be, and I agree with you. I do think it's Conley. Obviously, we'll see probably one of your favorites, Jason. Ronnie Bell will probably be out there.
Ronnie Bell played more than Conley. I mean, Ronnie Bell played more than Cowing.
Yeah, and I would imagine
now
we'll see Ronnie Bell.
Right. Now Cowing is going to jump Ronnie Bell too.
We'll see.
Doubt it.
We'll see.
Doubt it.
We've got about 14 super chats from Niner Grandpa, so let's run through these really quick. Niner Grandpa says,
just look, just one more time before he does. Just one more time.
Okay.
Look.
Okay.
I absolutely think that Jacob Cowing should play. I don't think that Ronnie Bell should be playing over Jacob Cowing. I think the world of Jacob Cowing. I don't know what you want me to do about what Kyle Shanahan's going to do.
Jason.
Direct your anger at the guy in control, not the guy with the really nice haircut. Like, what do you want me to do, man? Like,
they can't yell. They can't yell directly at Kyle, so they got to yell.
What you're saying? What you're saying? Screw me for? I didn't do anything. Like, I would love to play Cowing. I didn't do anything. My God, guys, please.
That's how content creation works. They can't yell directly at them.
I definitely want Cowing to play. What the hell?
they can't yell at the people who are responsible for the situation, so they yell at us because we have to talk about the situations. That's how it works.
No.
Niner Grandpa says, Brad, watch Niner Grandpa. Should have put Allen in after the half, to be honest. Is that a Brock Purdy tweet? If that is, that's interesting. Vikings, just gameplays, better, and
game playing was better.
Lost with
last win in Minnesota.
Last win in Minnesota was in December. Yes, we know. Krug wants a pig. Oh my gosh.
This is all insightful, man. This is all completely adding to the conversation too.
All right. All right. We spent a lot of time talking about the offense. I think defense? Are we good on? Yeah, we good on the offense.
Yeah, look, I'll say this. Offense, here's my advice. Score a lot of points and score more points than the Rams. That's my advice.
What are your thoughts on the offensive line?
Okay. I'm scared to talk about offensive line because I think John Feliciano's out here like in the streets looking around.
He's patrolling.
Yeah, so I don't have any takes on the offensive line because John Feliciano's out here in these streets ready to pounce on people. Look.
Give your honest
not Pooney's best game.
Agreed.
Obviously. Somehow he was graded worse than Jake Brendel. So PFF.
Was he?
Yes. That's
PFF. That's why PFF is unserious.
So PFF, if this is your argument about subjectivity and objectivity and in the grades, that's exactly what you're looking at. Go away, man. I'm getting yelled at on YouTube. I'm sorry, I was getting a call. And Trent. All right, this is really weird for me with Trent. I think this is what I really want to talk about. Trent gave up 4 pressures, and right off the bat, when you see that, you're like, what? Like, that's a lot. And then there's Brandon Thorne cutting up all the amazing things that Trent does, and still Trent leads the league with a 91.7 run blocking pass grade. Now, oh baby, this is gonna really piss everybody off. Hey, Cole McKivitz was all right, man. Look, everyone's gonna point to the play. Everyone's gonna point to the play that he kind of got thrown down on the Juwan Jennings over the middle throw. Right? He just got moved off his spot a little bit. If Brock has half a second more, he bangs that throw on Juwan Jennings. But in the run game, McKivitz was good, man. And I know people don't want to hear that.
I love it. I love that someone else is saying nice things about McKivitz, and it's not just me. Again, set your watch to it. I don't have to say this every week. McKivitz is going to give up 2 to 3 pressures a game. He's not a prototypical pass blocker. That's not who he is. He's probably better suited to be a guard because of that. But he has proven he can be more than serviceable on the outside. So set your watch to it. It's
I got one more. I'm
Go.
itching. My hands itching. My hands
I
itching.
can see you. I can see you tweaking. Go.
From Mick Glinchey to Mick Kivitz, the only difference is one was drafted number 9, and the other one was found at the end of the draft. But you're getting almost the same kind of game plan, except McGlinchey couldn't play guard; he's too tall. But it's almost the same kind of like box. It's the same kind of scouting report, right?
Yeah.
The same, like the same scouting report. Pass blocking, you're gonna get some plays where you're like, "What on earth are you doing?" Run blocking, I think you're gonna see you're gonna see some good plays, and that's what McGlinchey is. But it's just funny that the 49ers went from Mick Glinchey to Mick Kivitz, and the only real difference besides the height is draft position and draft stock.
And how much they're getting paid. That
100%. 100%.
One of the highest paid right tackles in the league based on where he was slotted in the draft. And obviously
he's the cheaper version. He's the cheaper version.
Exactly. He's not even getting starting money.
No, not even.
Like, people aren't ready to have that conversation about how he's one of the best values on the team, but because of their perception of him and not really understanding like what he is, and then just taking the McGlinchey energy and channeling it to McKivitz, they're like, oh, he's just, but it's like, it's not apples to apples. Like, there's some obvious similarities, but you're paying this guy as a swing tackle, and he's performing beyond that. So that's typically where we have those conversations of, everyone wants to get on Ayuk for 30 mil. Oh, you got to do this for 30. Well, what about McKivitz? He's being paid as a backup tackle in this league, but he's playing as a mid-tier right tackle. And if that's what you're getting out of McKivitz, that's exactly what you're looking for. That allows you to pay everyone else, right?
Well, the kids use mid in a different way, but what you mean by that is middle of the pack, right? Like,
middle of the pack.
Yeah, I think everything has to come with perspective, right? If you're expecting number 9 overall pick play from McKivitz, that doesn't really make sense. But when you look at what you're getting, it's almost like Brunskill, right? Like Brunskill isn't like elite. Yeah, he's not elite, but you were fine with what you got. Bang for your buck.
He was elite against Aaron Donald.
Right. Well,
this was my favorite thing of all time.
Yeah, ever. Bang for your buck. Return on investment, right? Return on investment, I think, is the way you should put it in, right? If you're putting a number 9 pick on a guy, you need to be an all-pro. And I don't think that that's crazy to say. Number 9 overall pick, right tackle, you've got to be an all-pro. Yeah. But when you get a guy for what you've gotten and what you're getting from him, it's still return on investment. And I think that's the way you should view it, as opposed to, I need McKivitz to be an all-pro, or I need McKivitz to be. I don't think you're going to get that from a guy like that. And I don't think that's the way you should be setting your expectations or your value on him.
Right. So what you're seeing is them being able to run consistently to the right side. And it's a beautiful thing. You look at the biggest runs against the Vikings, there were pitch rights. And on pitch right, the most crucial block is between your right guard, and the most important is your right tackle. Because if your right tackle isn't doing his job, the whole play is blown up, because you're instantly having the running back directly behind the tackle. So if he's giving up penetration or anything and he's not getting his blocks, all those plays are gone. So when you're looking at Jordan Mason being able to make those sick cutbacks and be able to weave through these lanes, it starts with McKivitz. McKivitz is doing a hell of a job considering the context. Again, he's not an all-pro player. I'm not evaluating him as such because he's not. He's a 5th-round draft pick who was cut, who should have been a guard, who's playing tackle, and is being paid as like the 33rd, 34th highest paid offensive tackle in the league. And considering that being the circumstances, you're getting a value on McKivitz, but people don't quantify it like that. So anyways, that was like our first like extended pro positive McKivitz segment in a while. I like that.
And John Feliciano, if you're watching, just relax, man. Just chill out, dude. Okay,
relax,
like
just
an opinion. I know I don't know better than you, but can you just like get back and maybe you can play center. Like, please, like, don't worry about who's talking what about linemen. Okay, please, just like let's get back. He did say that you're good though. He did say that you're good though. Like he told you you're good, bro. Like you're and we all know that. But that's why like I was like, man, if I was hesitant to talk about the offensive line before, now I'm even more hesitant now because this man's in these YouTube streets evaluating all of us and what we think of O linemen, right? Like I'm not gonna say anything. Anybody ask me about O line, I'm like, I don't know anything about O line play.
Hey, he's got some time. He's got some
time.
Right
GAA said, I'm John Feliciano and I approve this message. He's probably one of these guys in his chat right now with like a crazy name. Like
probably chirping us too. We don't even know it.
Or he's just watching and just taking notes. Like I'm gonna, honestly, like I'm
Feliciano's the kind of guy who would be watching and he would just chirp you from his account. He would would be chirping you exactly from his. But no, that was a pretty funny back and forth. But I think you said it. I think you said the thing about the offensive line. The biggest issue right now, and I know with the Feliciano thing, I know where it's coming from, and I know what he's
where it's coming from, and I know who he's talking about too. That's the other thing. Like that's crazy because it was right after the time that one clip came out, and then all of a sudden Feliciano ran and he started tweeting.
And to Feliciano's point, I understand what he's saying because in this particular clip, it wasn't Brendel's fault. I even did a breakdown on it the day prior saying the similar thing. Now, you watch the tape, Brendel struggled. Brendel definitely is struggling at the point of attack on the line of scrimmage. He's struggling in pass protection. Where he's continuing to play decently well is getting to second level. He's good at getting to linebacker, and he's good. That's his game again. Yeah, right. He's got the speed. He can get to second level.
He's lighter.
He can wall off the whole smaller linebackers.
That's see. All right, look. If you have an issue with the player, I get it, right? But you have to understand the way that Kyle is constructing this offensive line with smaller and shiftier players to be faster, to get to second level, get outside pull, right? But it shows up at times during pass protection. So I think while you can be frustrated with the player, I think it might be a better conversation to ask, why do you continue to do this? But then when Mason's ripping off run after run and you see him at the second level, it's like all these guys who are a little bit quicker and smaller and shorter.
Right. So again, it's not all bad, but it's also not all great. There was a handful of plays where you're like, oof, that's tough.
Yeah.
And so to be fair, they were rotating at center with Feliciano in training camp. Like I was tweeting about it all the time. I was like,
oh, Feliciano was supposed to be the starter, Brad.
Yeah. I smell a center competition. And Brendel was having a difficult time during training camp. It wasn't all roses for him during that time either. And obviously Feliciano goes down. So my thing is if Brendel keeps playing at this current level that we've seen these past two games, I would imagine Feliciano will take over at center when he's able to return, just because we've seen Brendel play at a higher level than this. And so we're also holding him to his own standard. And right now he is playing below his own standard. And I'm just going to hold him to that. I'm not even going to hold him, comparing him to all, like we're the same conversation we're having with McKivitz. I'm not even comparing or looking at Brendel against all pro centers. Creed Humphrey. I'm not comparing him to Creed. I'm comparing him to him. And I break down every offensive line rep for the last however many years. So I've seen all his reps. So I know what he's good at. I know where his strengths are. I know where his weaknesses are. And something's not working for him right now that has worked in the past. So I'm just comparing him to himself, and comparing him to himself, he's not at the standard that he was when he got paid, right? Leading up to that contract and that season that he had. So if he maintains, I would imagine that Feliciano comes back, he'll probably take over the center spot, and we'll go from there. But yeah, the offensive line had some moments, but it also, again, had some moments because of the scheme. They missed on multiple stunts. You saw a rare Trent Williams miss on a stunt. He was locked in on the edge, and he got popped by the defensive tackle. They looped around, got a sack. It was things that were, not what we're used to. And so, but that was like the offense as a whole, right? That's kind of like what we're getting to. So when you're kind of transitioning this into the Rams game, it's like those are the things that you want to see cleaned up. You want to see these guys communicating better on stunts. You want to see them more alert to stunts. You want to see them kind of head on a swivel, passing things off and doing those things. There's positives, there's negatives. So to kind of wrap up the offensive line question, they can definitely be better. And
yeah,
they can be better, especially in the interior. I would say
yes. 17 pressure is not great, Bob.
Yeah. And even though I do agree that it also wasn't Pooney's best game either, I still think he was the better of the three interior. So
lowest graded, pal. Yell at Pro Football Focus.
That's why they're unserious. So with Banks and with Brendel, I want to see those guys take a step forward. That would be my critique. It's not a criticism, it's a critique. And just like every day when they're watching the film and they're breaking it down, they're being critiqued. They're not being criticized. And I think that's the biggest difference with what we're seeing online is there's criticisms, not critiques. We can point out and say, you can do this better in this spot, opposed to dogging someone for not, doing their job like they should do it. So I think that's to keep Feliciano off your back. Just stay to the critique game, right? If you have a critique or you have something to point out that you don't like, I would say that would be my advice. Is just stick to like, this is what I would like to see over this of what we got.
And this was a banner week for, the time to be negative is during a 49ers loss. Because that's the stuff that's going to get you the most like views and stuff. I'm talking about on Twitter and stuff like that, or YouTube.
Oh, people are raging. People are crashing out. They want all the negativity they can get.
Right. And they want someone to blame, and they want to be able to point something and say, like, this is the whole reason the team lost. This is one person, so during wins, if someone's being negative, like let's say the 49ers go out here and they blitz the Rams 43-0, right? And someone's like, oh, look at this block that McKivitz missed. People are going to be like, boo, that man. No one cares. But during a loss, they want all the negative stuff because they want to be able to be like, where did it go wrong? Blah, 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 and boom, 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 boom. And like, that's the thing, right? Like, and again, I said on our instant reaction show, it was going to be a banner week for negativity, man. And it always is during 49ers losses. So.
Yeah, there's a good portion of the fan base that thrives off negativity. But as both you and I really try to do is we try to keep it even and down the middle and keep it about football and keep it about those things, what we would like to see better, what we think they could improve on. And again, it's important to note that we don't know everything. That I think that's kind of also to where Feliciano is coming from is you guys have no idea. You have no idea what the responsibility is. And so that's what he's speaking to. He's saying you are speaking on something in a very negative way that you're incorrect on.
And in an absolute way. Not not like when you watch JT O'Sullivan, he's like, I'll be honest with you, I'm not certain how they are coaching this or what's supposed to happen, but this is what I'm seeing. That is probably the most honest and earnest way to break down film and talk about it. But when you talk about it with an absolute certainty, without a shadow of a doubt, because you better know. So when I post a film clip, right, I have a process. If I can't recognize the concept off the rip, I will say that what I think it is, and I send the clip to 3 people that I really, really, really trust that know. And usually one of them can show me the entire play call, and then I'll know from there where I was on it. So again, the absolute certainty that people point out things is the part that'll get you in trouble. Instead of being, this is what I believe it to be, this is what I think it is, I think that's a way to keep all of that stuff off your back. No one knows everything. No one knows what's being coached. Unless you've got the playbook and you were there with the install, then you're not going to know it all. Everybody's going to miss on something. But the certainty, like the speaking in absolutes in almost everything, it's just weird.
Yeah. When we understand, it's It's a lot of nuance, Jason. That word that we talked about earlier. We got a couple super chats. What do you think about Gammon's question here?
The one where Diddy doesn't get out of jail for the rest of his life. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to say a Biggie song, but Diddy's behind it. But yeah, I don't know. Gammon, lock his ass up and don't let him out, man. He's in the I know New York City and the jail that he's in Brooklyn. The jail that he's in Brooklyn, he needs to be in a room by himself because he's not gonna make it. That MDC in Brooklyn is like the only place that's worse is Rikers Island. So yeah, I'll be missing you is my favorite Bad Boy song. Bye, buddy. See you later.
Damn. Ty says miss Aziz every day, man. Yeah, we knew it was coming, right? He had to go get the starting job. He was a starting caliber linebacker. But I think both you and I, like, we were one of the rare few that saw that.
What with the Aziz hive?
Yeah, we saw, like, and I don't even know if we were like even streaming yet at that point because that was before 2021. I don't think we had really linked yet, and we both saw it. We both saw it from a mile away. We're like, yeah, Aziz is going to have a breakout season. He's going to be that guy, and he absolutely did. And we knew he was going to be gone, right? Because he needed to be a starter. He needed to be the mic. He needed the green dot. He needed that opportunity. And he's a dog, man. He's so good. He's so good. And, you know, obviously not having Dre out there amplifies it a little bit. But hey, I mean, we've gone this whole show. We haven't talked about Fred, who's probably playing at a defensive player of the year caliber. What have you seen from Fred?
Defensive player of the week snub. I didn't realize that your team had to win for you to be the defensive player of the week. Shout out to Jesse Bates, though. He had a hell of a game against the Eagles. Like, I understand. But they literally gave it to Bates because Kirk threw that touchdown to Drake London at the end of the game. And what does winning have to do with best defensive player? How could you watch that game and watch Fred Warner fly around that field, literally save that game from being a blowout, be everywhere, and say that wasn't the best defensive performance of the week? Jesse Bates was balling, though. Don't get it twisted. Jesse Bates was hooping. But come on. I think it's because when you see something over and over and over, it becomes normal. And it becomes like when Steph goes out there, shout out to Steph. When Steph goes out there and he throws in 5 threes from the logo, nobody even bats an eye. And they're not like, oh, that's amazing. It's just like, oh, that's Steph. You know, like it's when he
throws up a 3, turns around, doesn't look at it going, you're like,
right. That's normal. Steph. You know, when Michael Jordan hits a fadeaway on somebody, that's Jordan. Like, I don't get that part. Like, so I think a little bit of what Fred is suffering from is like people are just normal or they're just numb to like how the level of play that he's at. It's insane. That game, I've never seen one player literally save a game from being a blowout. I don't know if I've ever seen that actually, or in many years at least, let's just say. Because
he single-handedly kept the 49ers in that
game. Single-handedly. I mean, the interception, the punch out, that was literally a touchdown. Like, what else do you want the guy to do?
Remember how we talked about Deebo Samuel in 2021? Like,
that's it. That was what Fred was doing. Yep.
He was backpacking the team from a defense standpoint, which is even crazier because you don't have the ball in your hands and you don't have you're reacting to everything. You're not dictating and bringing the fight to the defense. It's the reverse. So Fred's having a remarkable season. He's going crazy. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And to me, my read on it is he's pissed off at
he's not having a good time. Yeah, he's not having a good time right now either.
And
that's
what I love about Fred. It means so much to him. Like the pregame speeches, the halftime speeches, the yelling, like that's real. Like he's really that intense when it comes to he really lives and dies with every single play, every single game, and you have to respect the crap out of him because he's made it to the mountaintop, right? He's got the all pros, he's got the accolades. Like we know he's the best, linebacker in football and all of those things. That's not what he's playing for. He's playing to win.
Mhm.
He's playing to demolish the other side. And with Fred, he is playing like an absolute menace. Did you hear the story about how that forced fumble came to fruition on the goal line with Aaron Jones?
Did he tell it on his podcast?
Yeah, so he does this like rear view thing with Goat Farm Media. He was talking about how he was in coverage on Trent Sherfield. We know Trent Sherfield very well, right?
Oh, hello, old friend.
Terrell Owens from the 2021 training camp series.
What do you mean? And so you mean training camp Antonio Brown?
Yeah. Trey Lance and him were supposed to be special, man. They're supposed to be special.
Good times.
Yes, exactly the person. So he's in coverage guarding him. And so as he's telling the story, Trent Sherfield's like, come on, Fred, come with me. Come on. Because he's trying to clear him out with a route.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he said, he's like, oh, well, he's trying to clear me out. So he instantly flipped back and was able to react to Aaron Jones. And as a result, got the fumble. And it was pretty funny because that would be like us competing against each other. Like we're boys, like we've been in this together, but now you're an Eagles podcaster. Like we're still going to.
Why Eagles? Hold on. Hold on. Why Eagles? Because I'm wearing green. Like, and don't start this again.
Because that's your home team, right?
No. What are you talking about? Don't. You know what? I'm gonna leave the other one out. But don't start. You definitely a Broncos country too.
Absolutely. Let's ride, baby.
Right.
So, anyways, but the point being is like there's natural camaraderie there. So Sherfield's like, come on, man, come with me, ride with me, and so that flew into Fred. That's like, oh crap, like you're trying to clear me out. So he peels off and then he creates that fumble because Trent said that to him. And could you imagine how Trent would feel if the 49ers actually came back and won that game and it all was sparked off of him kind of alluding to Fred, like what the heck was I don't know. I thought it was funny.
That's good. That's cool. That's kind of like the story. I don't know if you saw, and obviously this isn't 49er related, but it's almost the same kind of thing. CJ Stroud was talking to Jalen Johnson. They got them mic'd up, and he told Jalen Johnson, he's like, stop giving your secrets away on the Richard Sherman podcast. And he goes, what are you talking about? He goes, that palms look. He's like, you ain't gonna get me. Like, I think that's the little stuff that is really cool about these matchups.
It's crazy, man. We talked about it a little bit at the beginning. Everyone's got a podcast now. Deebo's got a podcast now.
He needs to work on that.
You didn't love the first impression of what you saw?
He can improve. He's a rookie in podcasting.
I mean, honestly, it felt like he kind of handled it like he handled his interviews, like with the media. It kind of felt the same. And I think the whole point of like the player podcast is you kind of break
away from that. Yes,
the media type persona, because we get it. You're in those scrums, cameras and microphones in your face. There are
emotions off the game,
and there are plenty of journalists looking for that quote, looking for that. I'm trying to get you so they can get their clicks and they can get their run. So he's very cognizant of that.
Yeah.
So, I felt like reps, right? We were both rookie podcasters at one point. I was absolutely
100%.
terrible when I first started. And it's not a natural thing for me. I can't imagine it's a natural thing for him either. So they'll get it. They'll get it figured out.
For me, I'm an ultimate yapper. But when I first started, doing this, I'm the yappiest of the yappers.
The yap king, not the yap king.
Yeah, Jason
king.
Yaponte, if you want to get technical. But when I first started, I just kept saying, right? Because I'm trying to put my thoughts together. All that comes with reps. So Deebo will be fine at that. So yeah.
I had my catchphrases like you love to see it. I say obviously a lot. I still do. I still have my crutches
Yeah.
of the things that I say quite a bit, but it comes with the territory.
Mhm.
Ty says, "What's your opinion on Javon Hargrave's play?"
Yeah, going into this game, obviously the interior of the Vikings was the focal point. You have Garrett Bradbury and Ed Graham. Literally, Ed Graham had a 9.6 pass blocking grade out of 100 against the New York Giants. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence is a stud. So this felt like a get right game for that. And you did see Hargrave get in and make the intentional grounding happen. You definitely saw that. And Nick Bosa was a product of kind of pressure from the middle on his second sack. But it's not what I thought it would be. Still not. We're now what, 18, 20 games into his tenure, including the postseason. It's just not what I thought it would be. And we talked about it on the instant reaction. That signing felt like a luxury signing because we didn't have it on our bingo card that they were going to pay Hargrave on the first day. Because why? Why? I mean, not why, because I understand why you did it. He had a phenomenal season with the Eagles. But yeah, unfortunately, again, just hasn't been what we thought. Doesn't mean that it won't continue that way, but I expected a little bit more in this game, especially with the shape of the interior offensive line of the Vikings. Man, just I don't want to say anything bad because he might be watching.
I think what Hargrave's going up against, again, it's kind of like what we were talking about with Brendel, is he's being compared to himself, and
Mm-hmm.
he's not playing like he was playing prior to getting here.
Mm-hmm.
And although I don't think he's playing terribly,
Mm-hmm.
again, you're comparing him to the contract. You're comparing him to what he was before, and it feels like, okay, he doesn't feel like that dominant force like we were maybe expecting when we paid him. So, and again, it's one of the pitfalls of dropping coin on a guy over 30 like that. You're hoping that you are getting the last bit of that juice, and so
Mm-hmm.
you're hoping that that's not running out. But yeah, I think that's just where we're at with Hargrave. Is there's high level expectations for him, and unfortunately, just not meeting it. I mean, I thought it was pretty interesting what Baldy had to say about him, because I
Mm-hmm.
think he went on 95.7 with Bonte and Shasky, and um, I saw the quote of what he said. I didn't hear exactly what he said, but effectively saying that this isn't the same guy that I've, and
Right.
Baldy, he's been breaking down Hargrave for years. Like he has much broader experience with Hargrave than we do, and he's like, that's not the same guy. And
Yeah.
so when Baldy says that, I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like that feels like a problem.
And the other thing is, we knew that he's not a run defender. He was brought here to be an interior pass rusher. Unfortunately, when you watch him on tape, there's times where guys are moving him through 1 and 2 gaps across on the run game. And now we're not even getting the pass rushing consistently. It's frustrating. You thought, and again, I don't care about the contract. Let me tell you why. Because he was very good. He has been very good in his entire career. I don't care about the contract. I care about what the player I thought I was getting, what he was supposed to be, not what he's getting paid. So yeah, if you want to say, hey, he's getting $30 million, but fine. But I was expecting the guy that we saw with the Eagles. I was expecting that guy, and we haven't gotten that. And again, expectations and reality have been two different things. And we heard Hargrave say it took him a little while to get going. Okay, so maybe the first year we can say, let's chalk it up to that. Let's put it like that. But now here we are. It's week 2, week 3, and we're still kind of asking, where's the impact? Where is it? And we hope to see it soon. But I'm not worried about what he got paid. I wanted the player who was wrecking the game from the inside for the Eagles all year while they went to the Super Bowl. That's the guy I wanted.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's just where we're at, is we're ready to see the fruits of that player being added, and putting him in between Leonard Floyd and Nick Bosa. Obviously, Nick Bosa had a 2-sack performance,
Leonard Floyd was
which is
non-existent on Sunday, by
right,
the way.
right, which is nice for from Bosa's standpoint, because we hear that same thing, like where's Bosa at? Where's this guy? But do you think that the addition of potentially, or I think we're pretty clear that Talanoa Hufanga is going to
Mm-hmm.
return to the secondary? Do you think that maybe helps just overall communication with the defense? Because I think that's one of his best traits, is his ability to see what's happening
Mm-hmm.
and communicate that to the rest of the group. Do you think his presence could potentially help from that standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think when you think about getting back an all-pro player, I think that's the easiest thing to say is how could it not help? And I think that's fair. I think I don't want to make any sweeping statements, but I was a little bit more nervous about the situation and the way that they kind of were put in position. And that goes to the play caller, the defensive play caller in Sorensen. Does that mean that Hufanga is the end all be all fix it all? I hope so.
I would be cautious of
Right.
that.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at, right? You don't know what shape you're getting him back in because he hasn't played football in so long. And I don't know if it's a player issue or if it's the scheme up top with the secondary. We looked at the Justin Jefferson touchdown. You look at it, you see George Odom. You're like, what is George Odom doing over there? Well, George Odom is a special teamer, and it was a bracket with Jair Brown as single high. Obviously, you wanted Odom on the bottom and Tig on the front, on the top. But once Justin Jefferson gets a step on you, Talanoa Hufanga's not running with him either. And I think that's the part that I like. I would love for it to be that way, but when a guy runs 4.4 and you run 4.6, you're not going to change those types of plays. Now, communication, obviously, that's probably where it's lacking the most. And when you saw the play with, if I'm not mistaken, it was Mooney and who's the safety that they lost on the Naylor play.
Odom.
I think it was Odom, right? But what happened is, and a lot of what's going on right now too, with like little wrinkles that everybody's putting into their offense, is they're bringing receivers into that gap in between the guard and the tackle, and Mooney's reading run, and once it's not, he's behind him. So again, I don't know who the miscommunication's with. Obviously, Hufanga has experience, obviously, with the team and the players, and obviously he's a former All-Pro. But I worry a little bit more about the positions they're being put in and less about the talent on the back end, in my opinion.
That makes sense. So it's more about a schematic concern, right?
Yeah, just in certain spots, just
of it.
Right, and just certain spots. Like if you're Tig, you can't, when you're 17 yards away, take a step up when Justin Jefferson's running at you. Right, like that's something that
almost like you have to run backwards.
You have to
determine his angle
before
a little bit, right?
The thing is I don't blame Odom because Odom was underneath taking away that passing lane. It's when Sam saw Justin Jefferson put his foot in the ground and saw Tig turning, he already knew to get rid of that thing because he knows Justin Jefferson's going to outrun him. So is that an instinct thing? Is that, kind of what they've been teaching? I don't know. But I just want to make sure that everybody's in the right spot to succeed, because it's not like Hufanga could have ran with him either. If he's put in that position, everybody has to be in the right spot.
I think it comes down to a little bit of an experience. Like, we have to keep that in mind. First time DC, George Odom is not a starting safety being thrust into that spot. Jair Brown thrust into that spot as a rookie, still getting his legs under him. The kind of the same things like we've even talked about with Brock. It's like these are still young players. So young players are more prone to more mental lapses, right? Like that's where you have to live with the bumps and bruises of more mental lapses opposed to physical lapses. Now, we could see the best have physical lapses. It's part of the game. It's the ebbs and flows. But that's when we talk about trust, we talk about coaching and them having confidence in you to go out there and actually execute on the field. It comes down to you being in the right spot where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to do, the correct technique, the correct shade, the correct steps. Like, it's not that you can't do it. It's about actually just going out and functionally understanding situationally what you need to do. So that could be a part of it as well. And so for me, getting Talanoa Hufanga back, you kind of get rid of that at one safety spot. You're now getting a guy back who knows what to do for the majority of it. Now, we've seen Talanoa Hufanga make mistakes in certain instances. He's not perfect, as no one is. But kind of the thought process is that you're getting a guy now who knows what to do. That's the whole point. And you're now putting him with a guy who's a little bit more green and can hopefully kind of take away some of those instances where there might be lapses. So overall, like obviously we did a pretty long show. Like it was funny. I was talking with you about this. I was like, I'm not feeling like a 2-hour show today. And here we are an hour 20 in, and we could probably go for another 40 minutes. I don't want to, because I know we got other things to do today, but like, how do you see this like progressing with this team? Are you concerned after everything that we've talked about and where we're identifying the potential issues and what needs to be improved and corrections that we see as outside observers? Are you concerned? Are you concerned with where this team or are the expectations potentially weighing down the concern levels, if I'm saying that correctly?
It's definitely the offseason, what happened in the Super Bowl, the expectations going into this season, and then that game that you saw in week 2 that has everyone kind of panicked. Okay. The only years that the 49ers have kind of just rolled out everybody starting the season, 2019, when they started 8-0 and they lost to Seattle on Monday Night Football, and last year. There have been horrific losses for the San Francisco 49ers, who have still found a way to peak in November and December. Okay? It's losing to Colt McCoy, losing 4 in a row, losing to Atlanta and Marcus Mariota, right? Even last year a little bit, right? Like that little bumps and bruises, right? I'm not telling you to not be concerned, because I think we're all concerned with the injuries and the type of injuries. But I've seen this happen before. And I got to tell you guys, the 49ers are probably going to lose 3-4 more games this year. You know, it's definitely going to happen.
I think I have them around 12 wins.
Yeah. So, but when the team has performed so admirably in November and December, when things get going, and you have these lapses, almost every single year, you've got these 3-4 game stretches, or you've got these 1 or 2 games that are just straight outliers where you're just like, man, they played the worst. 2019 also, like, let's put it like this. Coming off of the New Orleans game, let down against Atlanta at the crib. I can point to so many games every single season that Kyle Shanahan's been here that are absolutely head scratchers, because you would have never been able to think that they would have lost that game. But I can also point to many games where the 49ers are playing a playoff team and they either absolutely decimate them or find a way to win. So if you're concerned about how this team is going to shape and round in the form, okay. But I think you should probably be more concerned about the injuries and how long they'll linger for. This is one loss of many. There will be more losses, hopefully not in the postseason. But I still have too much of a track record of this team turning it on when you need to panic after week 2. And let's look across the NFL. Everybody's worried about the 49ers injuries, but I'll point this out. Everyone is banged up right now, and it's week 3. If you're playing fantasy football right now, you're dodging landmines. Okay? 2 is out. AJ Brown's
You're
out.
running to the waiver wire to get Kareem Hunt.
Right. Pacheco's out. The entire Rams team is out. How many teams are going through injuries right now? Everyone. And I want to say this one more time, Brad, and we've said this all the time. You don't know what shape you're going to run into teams. The 49ers are going to face the Kansas City Chiefs without Isaiah Pacheco. The 49ers might face the Miami Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa.
Yep.
The 49ers might face the Cardinals without Kyler Murray and Marvin Harris. We don't know.
They're going to face the Rams without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua.
We don't know yet. Okay? So while we're upset about 49ers injuries, look around the league. If you think we're snake bitten, everyone is at this point. Jermaine Johnson just tore his Achilles. He's out for the year for the Jets. CJ Mosley's banged up. I can go through every single team, and there's impact players everywhere banged up. We don't know the shape of which we're going to run into teams and where they're going to be with injuries. So let's chill. All we can do is break down what we're seeing right now. Any sort of predictions going forward would absolutely be ignoring the fact that other teams can drop off and play, have just as many impactful injuries, and will change the way that you look at that game. I don't understand this part of it. That's all.
Don't understand the panic part of it. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
I got to
listen. It's just a loss, and we don't know what everyone else is going to be when you get down the line. And if you look across the league, everyone is being decimated with injuries. Everyone. So I think let's just chill. Well,
that's a hard ask for our particular fan base. We have a very passionate fan base, Jason.
Of course. And I never want to lose. I never want to lose games either. But a sweeping statement after a week 2 loss would be
a lot of sweeping statements.
Yeah, would be dangerously short-sighted. Dangerously.
And it's funny when you don't make sweeping statements after week 2. The things you are accused of are hilarious. So I think it's, what did they say? Cooler heads prevail. We understand. Well, we'll find out. Maybe not on Twitter, but in other areas of life, sure. I think we all understand that this is a marathon. Everyone treats it like a sprint. Everyone treats every individual game as it's a vacuum, right? And not only within the vacuum, they don't account for actual understanding of what happened. Like, again, Jason, you and I can both watch a game on broadcast, feel like absolute dog crap about how something went down, and then we get into the tape and we're like,
it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad.
Right? Like the same thing with Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk's not getting open. Why is there getting open? All 22 shows him running like free mad times. Your Broncos are down 0-2. Yeah, and McGlinchey's on the IR, pal.
What's the IR?
And McGlinchey's on the IR. But yeah, like to that. Why isn't Ayuk getting open? You paid him 30. Somebody got thrown the ball. He was open.
Yeah. So in regards to the concern levels, right? I think that's kind of like what we're talking about. There are levels of concern, but they are contextualized levels of concern. There are areas where we want to see Brock seeing the field a little bit better. We want to see Brock a little bit more active early on. We want to see the offensive line get a little bit together early on. We want to see the defensive line create more pressures and do more things. And we want to see this. There's plenty of areas to be like, yeah, we can improve and we can get better here as a team. But does this mean they're cooked? I mean, obviously, you lose McCaffrey, you lose Deebo, and now it sounds like you're going to lose Kittle. And again, like you talked about, all the past PTSD starts percolating, and you start getting real anxious when this is supposed to be your escape, right? As a hobby of following sports. So it's important, though, to recognize that there's still a long ways to go. And just like you said, you look across the league, there are a lot of teams in similar boats as the San Francisco 49ers, and they got to do the same exact thing.
The other thing is, if you're asking me Can the week 3 49ers beat the Buffalo Bills in week 12? I'd probably say no.
Probably not.
But good thing that they don't have to like good thing week 3 is not week 12, and good thing that things are gonna happen. So again, like saying, well, this team can't beat the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, you're damn right. I wouldn't say that. I would take the week 3 49ers without all these guys against the Buffalo Bills. You're damn right. But when you play them, you'll see where you're at. You'll see where you stand. You see where they stand. You see how they've been playing. You see what can be exploited. It just that's all I'm saying. That's it.
Yeah. And listen, we've seen slow starts. Again, remember the fast start last year was
last year in 2019 are the only time the 49ers have run through October. Other than that, they have not been good there. That's an objective fact. That is an objective
notoriously slow starters. The 49ers have been.
Yeah.
So the 1-1, I'm not tripping. You know, we get to 1-2, lose to a depleted Rams. Well, the concern levels start to rise a little bit, but
nah, I'm burning it all down if we don't win.
He said, nah. He said, I'm going scorched earth on
I'm going
Twitter.
scorched earth on the instant reaction show. I'm just gonna be like,
everyone needs to be fired. trade me to the Philadelphia Eagles content crew, all that good stuff.
Hey,
Broncos?
Does anybody else want some good news or good and bad news? And which do you want first? Do you want the bad news first or do you want the good news first?
Give me the bad news first.
Okay, Nick Bosa was limited today with a rib injury in practice.
Is that good news?
That's the bad news. That's the bad news. That's limited.
Okay, that's the bad news. Okay.
That's the bad news.
Okay.
The good news is it doesn't sound as if Charvarius Ward's knee hamstring issue is too serious. We're being smart and decided to hold him out, Nick Sorensen said.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Feel a little bit better now.
See?
See? Now it's all on you, Brock. You gotta backpack this whole team.
Brock,
you got no weapons, no Avengers. It's all you, Brock.
Brock, if you don't throw for 500 yards, get him out of here.
If he doesn't throw for 17 touchdowns in this game without the Avengers, he's a fraud. Book it.
Yeah. Jeez.
Do we want to do a fantasy segment? I know we've been
sure. I mean, it'll be a little bit fun to do that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to break it up. If you guys have any fantasy questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. How have you been surviving the injury apocalypse so far?
I've been fine.
Yeah, knock on wood.
I've been fine. I haven't rostered AJ Brown or any of those guys. I think the only guy that I have on my IR was Raheem Mostert. And that had to be for expected, right? That's not something where we're like, what the hell? Raheem Mostert's banged up. I'm fine. I'm doing all right. Just trying to navigate the best I can. But in my redraft leagues, I got Mason. I ended up with Carson Steele too on the waiver wire, man. So yeah, I'm all right, man. I'm doing all right. I'm not gonna be talking crap though, because it is only week 3 or whatever, and now we get to someone on their fantasy team has McCaffrey, Deebo, and Kittle. Someone does. Oh, I lost Deebo in one of the leagues. There you go.
I have all 3 of them on multiple leagues. I have AJ Brown. I have T Higgins. I have.
Ozzy's got a good one.
I got Puka. Oh, I haven't even seen the questions. I'm not doing well, Jason. Like this is a historically bad start for me across. I think I'm in upwards close to 15 leagues. I would say 90% of them dynasty. And again, different players across the board on all these rosters. It's not like I have the same roster. I am having a historically bad start. It's been a challenge, but I'm hoping that something breaks, man, because I'm getting cooked.
I'm not well.
I am not well. My team is like, oh, Brad, you wanna find some happiness in your fantasy? Not today, kid. Not today. Let me get to that Aussie question. There we go. Derek Carr or Jaden Daniels to start. I have where I'm going with this. I'm curious to see where you go.
So obviously, when you hear rushing floor, you got to think Jaden Daniels. And honestly, it's crazy because Washington has had issues, obviously scoring points, and then they had 7 field goals. So you're like, well, they're not scoring touchdowns, but they're number 3 on first and second down EPA per play. And I think a lot of the stuff that, and I tried not to watch that game because they're playing the New York Giants, and I don't go out of my way to be absolutely bored watching football when the Giants play. But it's there. The opportunities are there. Now, who are they facing this week is the question. But I want to talk about Derek Carr,
Cincinnati.
man.
They're playing
Cincinnati. Oh, that's gonna be. Oh, that's a Monday night game. Okay. But I want to talk about Derek Carr, man, and Clint Kubiak. Well, hello, pal. And you can see all the things that were run here last year, and what he's doing, it's twofold. Obviously, the motion is one thing. The most motion that's ever been run by one team was at 38%. And right now, the Saints are pre-snap motion 49%. And they're using Rashid Shaheed in the Deebo role. Taysom Hill is their Kyle Juszczyk. But what they're doing with Derek Carr is they're creating explosives off of drawing people to the line when you're running the football that well. And they're running him out of the pocket to give him easy throws. Hey, man, I don't want to make sweeping statements in 2 games, but Derek Carr has been really good. And also, by the way, this is the part, and this is the in-depth analysis that you need. Derek Carr, during election years, puts up insane numbers. Look it up. Look it up.
Was that the year he broke the leg?
So remember the MVP year? Election year. 2020. I think he only threw 9 interceptions. This year, 2 games, election year. Crazy. There's no rhyme or reason for it, but I think the political discourse fuels Derek Carr.
That's so funny, dude.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I'll probably go Jaden Daniels, but man, you don't have a bad option here, in my opinion. Oh, wait, really? Derek Carr against the Eagles.
I'm going Derek Carr. I feel like obviously you saw the rushing floor. You saw the 2 touchdowns rushing of Jaden Daniels. He got hit hard, right? In a tackle. He kind of came up a little.
He got to learn how to slide.
He scares me a little bit. And obviously has the rushing floor, 16 rushing attempts week 1, 10 rushing attempts week 2. So, and he's put up solid yardage in both, and he put up 226 passing last week, but don't have the touchdown production yet. And I feel like riding the hot hand. I feel like riding the hot hand of Derek Carr. And to your point of the weapons that he has, like it's not like Chris Olave is going crazy, and he's probably the best, wide receiver they have.
It's Rashid Shaheed
is going crazy stupid, and we know how fast he is.
Everybody was talking about him all year, and you know how like somebody gets hyped as a sleeper where you start to like, there's no way he could. Yeah. So far, he has.
Right, I agree. He cooked me in a championship round last year. I'll never forget it. While I had Olave as well, so as Olave Shaheed head to head, I got cooked because Shaheed went absolutely bonkers against me. So I saw it happen to me firsthand. So I believe the hype. I even was able to get him in a redraft league because of it. But I'm kind of, Alvin Kamara balling out, and I'm kind of liking the way it looks right now. So I'm
the
probably
Saints,
going.
Right, keep riding the Saints offense. I think that's not a bad way to look at it.
I would ride the hot hand on that one. I don't think you're in a terrible spot either way. But yeah, I probably ride the hot hand on that one.
We got a few in here. I like this part.
What about Isaiah Likely or Brock Bowers?
Brock Bowers. I think the first game with Likely was it wasn't a mirage, but they ran a bunch of 12 personnel, and obviously Mark Andrews was either not up to speed or bracketed. Brock Bowers is a top 5 tight end for me this week against Carolina, man. I think that's easy money. And the one of the bigger surprises is Gardner Minshew is like top in yards per attempt past 10 yards, and one of the most efficient quarterbacks throwing the ball down the field. Yeah, give me Brock Bowers, man.
I'm going Brock Bowers too. I think he could finish as a top 5 tight end, kind of similar to like what Laporta and Kincaid did last year. He feels like he's on that path forward. CJ or
Mhm.
Minshew? You just mentioned Minshew.
CJ or Minshew?
I'm assuming he's saying CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud, okay, or Minshew.
CJ
Houston
Stroud?
against, yeah, I'm guessing. Houston against, who's Houston got? This is great podcasting. Houston has the Vikings.
Not prepared.
Interesting. The Vikings. I think you didn't draft CJ Stroud to say, hey, this week I don't want to. Yeah. I don't think you drafted CJ Stroud like where you did. You probably spent like a high 4th or 5th to say, hey, I'm benching you for Gardner Minshew, even in a tough situation. I think you saw the glimpses of it. Him and Nico Collins are completely on the same page. I think we're still kind of waiting for Tank Dell to ball out. I would have a hard time. All right, think about what you can. This is the best way to put it. And this is like for any sit decision you have. What can you live with? Can you live with Minshew blowing up on your bench with 27 points? Or can you live with CJ Stroud blowing up on your bench when you drafted him so high and you didn't play him? I think it's got to be Stroud. I think you took him high for a reason. I think you took him as one of the top quarterbacks for a reason. You didn't take him to bench him for Minshew last week.
I'm right there. I'm right there with you. You put the investment into CJ, ride with CJ. That's what you got him for.
Yeah.
Kyren Williams or Jerome Ford?
Kyren Williams, steer me completely. Steer me away from this Browns backfield so bad. If you guys are looking for like a desperation start, Deontay Foreman is in it. If he's still available, and you like, let's just say you're one of those people that's lost Kenneth Walker or the litany of other running backs. Deontay Foreman is a desperation start, absolutely. But the way that it was going is much more into a committee. Pierre Strong got hurt. Jerome Ford wasn't getting the valuable touches around the goal line. I'm steering clear of that.
Yeah, Jerome Ford went from a 75% snap share in week 1 to 44% against the Jags. Now, they do have the New York Giants coming up, where you do think they would probably want to run the football a lot. But
I don't know. Brian Robinson tore them up last week.
Kyren Williams against 49ers defensive line. Jerome Ford against New York Giants defensive line. So you're going Kyren? I mean, I would say Kyren's better. He's a better player.
I'm going Kyren because
he probably gets I trust too.
And I trust the coach. Like, that's what scares me about this game too, is that while we're talking about who can do less with more, McVay is going to have to get him involved. And I think they'll throw him a few more passes. Remember, he got game scripted out last week because the Rams were down 84-0 in a blink. And you can't run the football when you're getting washed. I don't think that's going to be the case. The game is going to be very game script neutral, and it's just him because they're not even getting Blake Corum involved. So I'd probably stick with Kyren.
I agree. I'm going Kyren as well. Pollard or Charbonnet?
This one's tough, man. Charbonnet obviously is going to be the workhorse.
Yeah.
With Seattle. So if you're looking for the touches, then that's where you follow it. Pollard is sharing with Spears. And Spears is outsnapping him sometimes because remember, Spears was taking Derrick Henry off the field last year too. And Spears and Pollard, they need to keep them in tandem. Pollard can't do it by himself. Now, while Charbonnet scored, if you started him last week, you feel good. He wasn't exactly efficient. Like, he didn't blow the doors off this thing. Like, when Kenneth Walker gets back, whenever that is, he's immediately going back to the workhorse role. And if you didn't think Kenneth Walker was a good play before, maybe Zach Charbonnet's play against the Patriots will kind of just say, well, the Seahawks will say, yeah, we definitely need to use him. So to answer your question, give me Charbonnet because I know he's going to get the money touches. And I think that's and give me the guy who's going to have the workhorse role as opposed to the split. The split. Yeah.
Same thing. I'm going Charbonnet as well. I thought we knew he was a good running back coming out of UCLA. He just went to a spot where they already had a phenomenal RB1, and with him being down, he now has the opportunity to cook a little bit. So yeah, I'm probably gonna do the same as well. Another Kyren Williams or Aaron Jones.
Oh, Minnesota against that Houston defense. That's gonna be such a fun matchup. With Kevin O'Connell against DeMeco Ryans and his defense, and the vice versa with Brian Flores and Bobby Slowik. I think I lean Aaron Jones here. Now, look, all right, think this. You drafted Kyren really high, but Aaron Jones was one fumble away from really, really giving you a very solid day
I'm
on
curious
Sunday.
who the other RB is in this RB.
Ty Chandler. Ty Chandler.
That's what he said.
Well, what you mean?
No, I mean that he owns. He is Kyren and Aaron. Who's the third? If you're picking between those two, you would have to have. You typically have 2 RB spots, right? So who's the?
Oh, so who are you using in your flex? I mean, if you do,
yeah, who's your guy that's locked in? Because this to me sounds like you're rotating.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So who's your stud?
Yeah, who's your exactly? I mean, I think you're in a decent spot with either one of these guys based on them being your RB2, as long as you have a locked in RB1. So we'll see.
I lean Aaron Jones here. I lean Aaron Jones because they absolutely, with Sam, they get him involved with passes. I think that against that Houston defense, that game is going to be not a negative game script either because of the Minnesota defense as well. I have more faith that Aaron Jones gets in the end zone than Kyren Williams. I won't be putting down any Kyren Williams anytime touchdown tickets this week against the 49ers.
All right, let's do these next ones rapid fire.
Got it.
Collins or Higgins?
Collins got to play.
You got to play Collins.
You got to play Collins. I mean, and it's great to get Higgins back. I'm desperately hoping that he gets back because I have to plug him in a bunch of spots, but it's got to be Nico, man. I mean, he's him and Stroud have this incredible connection, man. Like Stephon Diggs is just like a guy underneath, and Tank hasn't even got it going. It's got to be Nico.
Right. Herbert or Javonte Williams?
Javonte!
The Niner. Oh, he's saying this is a Niner trade.
Yeah.
Should the Niners trade for Khalil Herbert or Javonte Williams?
Javonte.
Give me Khalil. Khalil, that's a former draft crush of mine. Give me Juice Herbert all day.
And the other thing about the Nico and T Higgins thing, Alexa, turn off. And the other thing about the Higgins Nico thing is, if Higgins doesn't go on Monday night, what are you gonna pick up? Eo Chavis or the other guy? Like you're gonna be in a bad. Like I know Nico's questionable. Whatever. We're all questionable. We're all day to day. Nico's gonna play though, so just give me Nico. Like that's another thing. But what was the other one? Oh yeah, Javonte for me. I'd say Javonte.
I would say
that's me being biased though. That's me being biased about my draft crush. Yeah,
that's my draft crush.
Right,
Juice Herbert.
that's my draft crush. Yeah.
But if I had to be objective about it, I'm scared of Javonte because I like Javonte. The injury, I don't feel like he's ever returned. I don't feel like he's ever been that guy that we saw before the injury. And so that's why I would take a cheaper, most likely, Juice Herbert in that scenario. But I don't even know if the Bears would want to trade him. They seem to like him over there. So, but we'll
tell
see.
them to send us Roshan Johnson.
Yeah, he's not really playing at all, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think
that
got us. Yeah, I think that got us through.
Cool.
That's Jason. It's hilarious today that I texted you and said, yeah, I don't think we're going to be doing a 2-hour show today, and here we are, about 10 minutes away from
147.
I feel like I jinxed it. I feel like, and that typically happens when we do that. Like, what are we going to talk about today? And it always turns out to be. We have a ton.
One more thing. Sneaky play. The Texans, Mixon didn't practice today. Neither did Damian Pierce. Here's a name from way back when. Cam Akers. Sneaky. You can probably get him right now on your waiver wire. Nobody's gonna go after him. If you are desperate, if you're absolutely desperate, there's a very good chance that Cam Akers is going to start. So if you want a starter, Cam Akers is going to start. And I think there's one more right there. Is that a Facebook one? Let's get to it, and then we can get out of here, man. Yeah, the Facebook one.
This one? Is this? Am I reading it right?
Yep.
Do I flex Montgomery or Jennings or start them both and bench Tyreek? I wasn't considering benching the Cheetah, but look at who's throwing to him. Oh, okay. I guess I can understand that.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing that I was saying earlier about like when you draft a guy, right? And Mike McDaniel's going to do everything that he can to get him the ball. They're not going to ignore that. I can't look at and I know Skylar Thompson's starting, but it may be Snoop Huntley who gets in the game, so maybe you hold out hope for that. I can't bench Tyreek because if Tyreek goes off on one of those games where like they run a play action and he gets it or he runs through everybody for like, I can't live with that on my bench. I can't live with that on my bench. I think you play Tyreek and you play David Montgomery, who's a touchdown machine.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not. I don't think I'd feel comfortable benching Cheetah just yet because I still think you'd be involved in it. Jennings, I might go Jennings, to be honest.
Over David Montgomery?
I don't own any David Montgomery stonks, so I honestly haven't been tracking what he's done this year.
Touchdown machine, man.
I know he's a touchdown machine, and I know he's playing behind
the best offensive line in football. Oh, no, he's not playing behind. Yeah. They're a 1-2.
They're a 1-2.
Yeah, like it's not like he's like mopping up for him. And who are they playing? The Lions are playing the goodness gracious, where are we? Where are
my players?
Good God. Oh, they're playing the Cardinals.
They're playing the Cardinals.
Yeah. So I think I have a hard time benching Montgomery. They use him so much, and that run game is so crazy.
So, I see. 16.3 in fantasy on sleeper week 1, 17 points week 2. I mean, he's not playing crazy snap shares. It's 49% in week 1, 35%.
But he gets the money downs and he gets the money opportunities.
But he's got touchdowns in both those games, and he also added 4 receptions for 35. Yeah, okay. Yeah. You convinced me. You swayed me.
Yeah.
You swayed me there.
Gesicki or Likely. Oh, you're not going to like this one.
You're going Gesicki?
I am. He's a big part of this offense, especially, I mean, look, if Higgins misses, this is a slam dunk. But the problem is that you got to make a decision before Monday, right? I think, again, week 1 wasn't a mirage because Isaiah Likely is a dog. But them running 12 personnel the entire time while they were, you saw it tilt right back to Andrews. Gesicki is actually involved. Like, Burrow loves him. And the way that Chase hasn't been balling. Yeah, Chase hasn't been balling. And if Higgins isn't there, I don't know, man. I got a hard time not playing the guy who has the worst gritty on the history of the earth.
Yeah, I'm going Gesicki too. He was actually a guy that I target as a sleeper tight end in a lot of my leagues. So, like in my deep dynasty leagues. So I feel pretty good with him right now. So I'm liking where we're at. So yeah. 49ers, Rams this week.
Yeah.
Let's get back on track.
Yeah, and once this is done, I'm just going to run to the liquor store and drink till I black out because I'm not worried. So, don't worry, guys. Everything's going to be fine.
Everything's going to be fine. Text Jason later and make sure he's still awake.
Don't text me because I'm not going to answer. And I'm putting my phone on Do Not Disturb. I'm going to close the blinds, turn off the lights, and just sit in the dark.
and watch old film. And
no, when I mean dark, I mean no TV, nothing. Like sensory deprivation.
Okay. A little ayahuasca with that too, maybe.
Right. Man, I got dark fast. All right. Yeah. All right.
All right, guys. You know the vibes. Make sure you tap in with both the channels, Aponte and mine. State of the Franchise every week. We'll be back next week and all that good stuff. So appreciate everyone's a long episode. Definitely grab some extra cookies on the way out if you stayed for this mega episode. Like, we went deep on this one, Jason. We really did. We dove into all the concerns around this team. And again, we came out with being like, it's still week 2.
I for one think we did a great job. But hey, I'm biased.
Yeah, whatever. We're biased, and I'm here for it. So appreciate everyone as always. Smash that like button on both channels on your way out. Drop your cookies in the chat. That's it for State of the Franchise this week. We'll see you next week. Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.